Welcome to the Self-Belief Podcast, the show that we shift your self-belief in, because self-belief shifting shifts everything. If you're unhappy with parts of your life and you know something needs to change, but whatever you try, you just keep ending up back in the same thoughts, reactions or choices, my free continued writing session is perfect for you. It's a live event and I'd love you to be there with me. Continued writing helps you find out the automatic patterns that are happening subconsciously, because until you're aware of them, you just can't change them. Once you can see what's happening, you can begin to understand why it's there and what can change. If you don't know what continued writing is, it's where I give you an unfinished sentence and you write it down, and then your subconscious continues to write the rest. Not the answer that you think you should give, not the acceptable one, but the one that comes out when you give yourself some space to write without overthinking it, because that's where your answers are. You don't need to have done continued writing before. I'll ask the questions and you write down whatever comes into your head, even if it doesn't make any sense, because you're not trying to get the answer right. You're letting your subconscious give you the answer that you need to hear right now. So the link to join is down in the show notes. If you can't make it live, you can still use my continued writing in your own time, because I have continued writing prompts available on my website, www.jennyfield.co.uk. Welcome back to the Self-Belief Podcast. It's a little bit different today because the other day when I was chatting away in one of my masterminds, I was sitting with a fellow neurodivergent, Sarah Hurd, and Sam Coles, who's a lighting expert. And we got into a whole conversation around how lighting affects us as neurodivergents. Sam herself has identified that she's probably on the autistic spectrum, but no diagnosis. But we'll have a bit of a conversation about that later. Welcome, ladies. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell everybody what it is that you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sam Coles. I have been a lighting consultant for 25 years. I specialise in advising people on the right lighting for their homes and gardens, rather than working on commercial projects. And I've had my own business doing that for 22 years.
Wow, gosh. Because when I first met you, I thought, what on earth is a lighting specialist? So it's good to know.
Good to know. People do.
Sarah, tell us a little bit about you.
Hiya, I'm Sarah Hurd. My business is Blue Conquer. I call myself a relationship coach. I specialize in emotional abandonment. And I give a shit about that because I've been there.
Yeah.
And I think many of us who have neurodiversity will have experienced some level of emotional abandonment, because we've had to be a square peg in a round hole for much of our lives until we truly started to understand who we are. Now, I don't necessarily say that I'm a neurodiverse specialist, but a lot of my clients do come to me and are identifying or have been diagnosed in that realm. And so that's pretty awesome. But I work with couples and individuals who might be sensing that something's a little bit off in life. You know, they're repeating the same patterns on repeat, going through the same loops, but they haven't quite figured out what that is. So, yeah, that's me.
Perfect. I myself have just started actually really identifying, because all my clients are neurodiverse in one way or another. And I firmly believe that we will have a little bit of neurodiversity in us all. It just depends on what level it comes to as to whether it gets picked up. But as we briefly said before we got on this call, getting a diagnosis these days is a bit of a nightmare. It took me a very long time to get my diagnosis. So, you know, if you believe that you are in some way neurodiverse, then start to look for the strategies. It's something that I work with my clients all the time on looking at the strategies, because you're uniquely you. It doesn't matter what label you have. You are uniquely you, and the strategies that you need are within you. They don't come from a system or a program. So the reason why we decided to get together was
in chatting with Sam in our mastermind, I identified to Sam that if you turn a bright light on without telling me that you're going to turn a bright light on, I go into major overwhelm, and it can take me days to come out of it. It's sometimes it can be a massive rage. Sometimes it can be a lot of tears. Sometimes it's just a complete and utter fear shutdown. For me, it's never the same reaction, but it is it's either a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. It's never a fawn reaction, which actually is my general reaction that I'm very aware of, and I work on that. But it is one of those adrenaline reactions that I have. And Sam said, oh my goodness, how does that work then? And we started talking about how lighting affects us as neurodivergents. Do you have an experience with lights, Sarah, that you struggle with?
Absolutely. I have lights scattered around in each room that I'm in. So depending on what we're doing in that room will depend on how much light I can tolerate. And yeah, I particularly choose warm light bulbs if I'm going to have lighting. I play around with the colors of any light shades that I have, because that will also have an effect on how much, and you'll probably have all the technical words for this, Sam. Is it something like lumens or something that kind of give out the spread of the light? But yeah, I work really hard, and lots of little gadgetry and things to help me make that an easier job. Yeah. Because when you're going around having to turn all these lights on just to have that little bit of light in that corner and that in that corner, and still be able to, because I'm a crafter as well, so being able to do crafting projects without having one of these really glary stitch lights that my mother-in-law used to have. This, it's almost like a headlight.
Yeah.
But yeah, even when I'm camping, I've got a headlight now that I can change all the settings so that it's, if I need the really long glow, so I can see where I'm going at nighttime in a wood, I can do that, but that I can keep it not too bright. And like you, it's like fur balls are going to shoot off me like a gremlin.
And that was such a surprise for me to hear that, because obviously I'm probably on the borderline of autism, and the only time that I've ever come across severe reactions to light were with severely autistic children who were non-verbal, and obviously lots of things upset them. I think having worked in a lighting showroom for the first 3 years of being in lighting, and then having my own lighting in an interior designer's business, where you're showing off a lot of lights at once, and also from a safety point of view, things have got to be bright enough for people to see. I think I got exposed to high levels of light for quite a long period of time, and I now say that I could probably survive on the surface of the sun, the amount of light, so bright light generally, particularly if I'm working, doesn't affect me, although we do have lots of different lighting levels we can apply at home. So I didn't realise that it did affect people on the spectrum. So it was a learning experience for me to talk to you two, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. Is I would like to understand more so that I can help people with whatever they're doing, whether they're working, whether they want to relax, because I do that to a level, but I didn't realize how much more I probably need to take it into account. And it's not even something I ask clients. Maybe it's something I need to ask them, because not everybody's going to offer that information.
Absolutely, because of the fact that, if you haven't identified in any way, or maybe even it's not even about your neurodiversity, you just know that lights affect you, but it might not be something that you say to somebody, because it's taken me a long time to persuade my husband that please don't turn that light on, and until I actually identified I was neurodiverse, and then I found other neurodiverse people that went, yes, that's me too. I kind of went to my husband, okay, and I had to play him a clip on social media that's saying, you know, if you're ADHD, you know, don't turn the light on suddenly, before he would actually believe me that I wasn't just being, you know, ridiculously petty. Just don't do that. You know, and I think it's about, you know, it being one of the first questions is, you know, how does light affect you? Because I also know that I really struggle, like a lot of people in the winter, with not enough light.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that's not necessarily about my neurodiversity. I think that's just generally, but you know, it is about how much light you know. And what's interesting, when Sarah said, you know, she likes an orange light, I like a blue light. So there's no given, is there? There's no, so you know, it's you know, and especially my husband and I sitting in the same room, he likes one type of light and I like another type of light, and he likes a really bright light and I'm like, I'm out of this room. You know, I don't want to be in here. So
and I do ask about kind of temperature, and I've got a chart that I bring up that, you know, that's either on my laptop if I'm in front of them, or if we're doing a Zoom, and I sort of explain about color temperature. So basically it's measured in kelvins. That's the international standard. So if you see things with a K on it, that's the color temperature, and the lower the number, the more orange it is, the higher the number, the more blue it is.
Actually, because I would have said it would have been the other way around.
Yes, yeah, and that is because it's to do with the, you know, the generally hotter things are warmer until, you know, if you look at them working in a foundry, they're quite often, the light is white. It's so hot, so it's gone through that orange stage, and as it gets hotter, it's yes, it is a temperature thing, as well as to do with the waves of infrared and ultraviolet and all that kind of thing. So I normally ask people that, but I haven't delved into why. I've had a few clients over the years that have explained that they're autistic, or their partners have explained that they're autistic, and to be honest, they've all been men. It was before the days we even thought that
there were only men that ever had it. This was what I was saying earlier. When I was studying childcare, they told us in our training that only males had autism and ADHD.
And that's because it shows up differently in women. And you know, it does show up in men in the same way as it shows up in women, but there's far less men that do that, and vice versa. So for us, it's internal. Would you agree? You're not feeling the need to rush around and dash around actually physically, Sarah, are you?
I am a busy person.
Yeah, there's a difference between being busy and actually needing to move constantly.
Yeah, I'm not a Zoomer.
Yeah,
but I don't sit down readily. Like there's always something that I'll kind of be pottering about. I mean, you know, what one of life.
I'd agree with that. I'm a potterer.
And
my bottom hits the seats and gets up again and goes somewhere else. And,
I can't settle to just do. I've got to be really focused to settle to do one thing.
Is that why you craft?
Probably, yeah.
Why
I think in the advent of, you know, some of the social media offers that there are now with reels and stuff, I'll be multitasking, doing other things. So I have checked that for myself, because also in doing too many tasks at once, I tire my brain out a lot, and that will enforce a burnout for me. So I have moved back towards light at bedtime. My husband doesn't like light at bedtime. He can't go to sleep while I'm reading. And I've tried all kinds of the tiniest little lights that just clip on your book and stuff. But I've just said, I'm really sorry, you're going to have to invest in a face mask, because what I'm doing is scrolling at nighttime, because that's the only way I can slow my brain down. But it's counterintuitive. It doesn't stop me from sleeping, but it hooks you in. Whereas a book will tire my eyes out, and I'll put it down even after a few pages when I'm truly tired. But I won't if I'm watching something on my phone. So I said, no, you've got to take control of your sleep, and that means you've got to wear an eye mask now, because I'm going to read. So we sort of fight to get to bed first.
So Sam, how would you I'm guessing your brain's going, yes, but we could do this, and yes, but we could do that for you. Because, you know, even just you saying about showing me a color chart makes me go, wow, that's because, you know, forgive me for this, Sam, really do forgive me, but I thought lighting specialists, I should come in and show what type of stuff you need up here and what, you know, you can get the best, the way it looks interior design wise. But actually that doesn't sound like that. It sounds like what you're doing is actually giving us a bit more scientific so that we're more comfortable in the room.
So 25 years ago, everything was halogen or what we called incandescent bulbs. So when you think of a light bulb, when people say I've had a light bulb moment, that's what they call a GLS, a general lighting service bulb. And it's that bulb.
Yeah. The shape that we all think of.
Yeah. When we were dealing with those, they were pretty much all the same color temperature. So nobody really thought about it. It wasn't particularly something in our homes. You might have had a contrast, say, I mean, I grew up in the 1970s with a house with a galley kitchen that had a fluorescent strip light down the middle. And they did an awesome job of filling a room full of light. We didn't have under cabinet lighting or anything like that, but it was probably a bit cooler in color temperature than the rest of the house. But it was kind of taken as a given that the lighting in the kitchen would be like that. So when I started in 2001, it was pretty simple. And I think it's one of the jobs that's got harder and more technical over time, because LEDs being manufactured in different ways, they can make them so much more flexible, and so they have done. So when I would never think about matching color temperatures, because if we had, you know, ceiling spotlights and a pendant and a couple of table lamps, they were generally all the same, and that's what you got, and you couldn't really do much about it unless you were somebody that was a crafter that had been exposed to the daylight bulbs, which are 6,500. So most of us in our homes are picking something around 2,700 to 3,000. Bearing in mind, the higher the number, the bluer it is. If you've got into those craft bulbs, you might have even been trying to put those in your house. But generally, the rest of us, we just went into the supermarket or wherever and bought the bulbs off the shelves. So it was only when LEDs started coming into their own, which is probably in the sort of late 2000s. There was still a lot of fluorescent around in the early 2000s. I think it really came into its own to be used seriously sort of 2007, 2008, 2010, and then we had the halogen ban in 2016, so a lot of people moved over it. It wasn't really until then that even I thought about it, because I didn't need to. And people accepted the different color temperatures. So how many of us had kind of the warm halogen ceiling spotlights in our ceiling? But if we bought a kitchen from most of the kind of average kitchen manufacturers back in the day, like Magnet, B&Q, Homebase, they had these little fluorescent strip bulbs, which were the under cabinet lighting. They were generally 4,000K. But nobody thought, oh, that looks odd, that's warm and that's not so warm. It was just, it was what we got. And I think it's only when the options became available, people wanted to explore those options more.
It's really interesting because, you know, I bought this house that we're in now 10 years ago, and we have a fluorescent strip down our kitchen. It's a galley kitchen, as you say. It's a fluorescent strip that goes down it. And it was only a couple of months ago that that bulb went. So this new bulb came in, this new strip bulb, that I can choose the light color that I want out of it. So I can choose, I think there's 4 choices. One's a very blue, one's a very orange, one's a standardy, and I don't know what the other one is. But for me, I was like, oh, and I put it on the blue, and I am so much more comfortable in my kitchen now. But what's interesting is other people walk in and go, oh, wow, okay. But my whole nervous system goes in there now with the light on going, okay, I'm okay. If I change it, I can't see. I feel very closed in. It's not for me. It's just not for me. It would work for Sarah, but wouldn't for me.
Well, kitchens are one of the difficult areas because a lot of joinery companies like 3000K, because that is generally, it's about the most neutral on the market. It's not too orange, it's not too blue.
Yeah.
And they like it because it's not going to affect the colours of the things that people put in their joinery. And particularly if you're using it for glassware display, it can make the glassware look really zingy and clean and nice. So they quite often want to use 3000K, but a lot of people want the rest of the lighting to be a warmer tone. They like 2700K. You get that bit of a fight. So I have to sort of go through with them saying, and I've got a great image of where a joinery company put the colour in they wanted rather than the colour in that we said. And then I've got a light bulb hanging next to it, and they're two different colours. And when you show that picture to people, they can really see how different something that's only 300K apart can be. But also I moved a glass from underneath the 3000K and put it under the 2700K, and you can see how zingy the glass looks under the cooler color temperature, and that sometimes helps people make a decision.
And I can really get that, but from my perspective, and I don't know how you feel, Sarah, but from my perspective, it wouldn't be about how things look. It would be about how my nervous system reacts to that light. It would be about how do I feel being in this light? Because a couple of weeks ago, I had to spend 3 days, I was training in a room with no natural light. And it was awful, absolutely awful. At any given moment where I could, I'm up and standing by a window or going outside, even though it was blooming freezing, just because I was feeling like, I don't like this. I was feeling really, really uncomfortable, and it was stimulating me in a way that I did not want to be stimulated. I felt very uncomfortable. So for me, it's not how it looks; it's how it feels. Does that work for you as well, Sarah?
Well, I was just going to say, often those types of environments, they're quite flickery lights, and that is what makes me feel jittery when it's all flickery. And you get that in a lot of commercial buildings, even in colleges and universities, because they're all in these suspended ceiling panels behind polyfoam and stuff like that. So I really struggle with that kind of thing.
So would you say that lighting for you is about how you feel or how it looks?
Oh, it's always, well, both, because I'm very much into aesthetics. Like, I love interior design. So I want that aesthetic feel, but I've always gone for how something makes me feel.
So if you had a choice of that looks amazing, but it makes me feel
no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So
you have to go with
the feeling would have to be the I mean, I've got some inherited lamps from my in-laws' house clearance, and they're both wooden stands. They've both got the same but different shaped lampshades on, and they've both got the same warm light bulb in, but one of them, because it's taller, gives out a different light than the other, and it's floored me. Like, I've played around with this and I don't understand why, but when I heard you say there, Sam, about different manufacturers and stuff like that, so technically the spec of the light bulb is the same, but I haven't gone into detail, because I didn't know that was a thing, that even in the spec, I guess it's like clothes sizes, isn't it? A size 14 in Marks and Spencer's is not the same as a size 14 in H&M.
You have to ignore the names. So some companies will call 3000K warm white. Others will call it neutral white. Others will give it different names, and then you've got, so some companies will call 2700K warm white, for others it's extra warm white. So I always say to people, if you're looking for bulbs, ignore the names, just look at the numbers. So
the numbers will always be the same then? So.
Yes.
So that's a UK standard?
That's a world standard.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so
always the Kelvin.
always look for the K. So ignore the name. And if you've worked out that 2700K is your thing, look for that on the bulbs. Ignore the names. And also, one of the worst things is for lighting products with built-in LEDs, because their names are all over the place. And if you pick the wrong one then, and you've got it out the box and you've had it fitted to the ceiling or the wall, it's used. And you can only take it back if it's faulty under the Consumer Rights Act, or whatever it's called. A lot of people think you can just take something back if you don't like it. I always say to people, if you're buying things yourself, look for the K.
So it's about identifying what K I would feel comfortable with.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to buy different bulbs and live with them for a while to see what you like. But it's funny,
you get a specialist in like you, and you can,
or you get the colour temperature change one. So your fluorescent strip in your kitchen's probably been replaced with an LED strip now, and they have given you the opportunity to select different colour temperatures. They weren't available in the early days. You picked a colour temperature and that was it. But it's funny you saying about fluorescence, because some people are more reactive to fluorescence as well. And I'm wondering now whether people that are further along the autistic spectrum and ADHD are more susceptible, but really badly flickering fluorescence could cause epileptic seizures and things like that. It's like a strobing effect. So that was one of the first health issues I became aware of, and it wasn't for a while because I don't do a lot of commercial, but the way that they used to get over that was there's actually a thing called a ballast which actually fires up a fluorescent light, and that's why sometimes when you've had them for a long while you get that funny flickering and they won't turn on, and it's eventually the ballast can go or the tube can go.
That's what happened to ours.
Yeah. So as the ballast is going, it gets more and more flickery, which is worse for people that are susceptible. So they came out with a high frequency ballast that meant that the kind of flickering that was going on was so fast that virtually nobody could perceive it. So that kind of got over that problem.
See, that's really interesting, because I will often say to my husband, oh God, that light's really flickering. And he'll go, what? It's not flickering. So obviously I'm perceiving
you're more receptive to that than he is. I had a family friend I did a project for a few years ago, and she didn't want ceiling spotlights because she said they give me migraines. And I actually said to her, well, let's try these where the bulb is set back from the ceiling, and there's a black ring inside, which in the trade we call a baffle, and that stops some of the sideways spill of the light coming out. So the thing that she used to see as she walked around a room full of the average halogen spotlights was flashing. And actually sometimes if you look up at a ceiling where there are spotlights where the bulb is very close, there's almost like an aura, like a flare around it. And she was very tuned in to that flare, and it would cause migraines. The new house that's got the set back bulb, she said she's never had a migraine triggered by the lights.
And that's where having a specialist makes all the difference, doesn't it? Because, you know, if you've just got your electrician just putting bulbs in, they might not know all of this stuff.
No. And they're quite often wanting to put in the brightest things because they're terrified of ever being picked up by somebody saying, my room isn't bright enough. You didn't put enough lights in. You told me that I was going to need 6, and it's obvious now that I need 10. Whereas I'm quite often saying to people, don't be scared of not having every room evenly bright. If you get it bright enough for when you need it, like your running the vacuum round or something like that, and you have dimmers or different layers of light, so you can change the way it looks and change the way it feels. By the time you build all those layers up, you don't have to rely on everything being, spotlights. Electricians were taught 1 spotlight every square meter. That was the thing in the early days.
It's so seamless.
Awful. And the problem is as well, for feel in a room, it's awful. So my office, because I rent an office in the commercial premises, it's got 4 twin fluorescent tube ceiling fittings, because in a commercial office, you want everybody to feel awake and have enough light to do what they need to do. So the room's evenly lit, but nothing stands out. If you have light and shade in a room, it creates contrast, it's much more relaxing to live with, and you can show off some of the things you've put in your room. People have beautiful fireplaces and artwork, and they might put, depending on the size of the house, they might have columns or a really lovely niches or something like that. And if everything's blanketly evenly lit, you have no focal point.
I think that's where I don't feel right when something's evenly lit. I don't think I whether that's about my perception of where things are, or I'm just thinking about, sort of, do I get any depth in that? That's really making me think about. I know that the light bulb that is literally above my desk here, I very rarely turn that on, even in the depths of winter.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much. It's just too much. I have now a side lamp that I can dim up and down.
Yeah.
And from the light perspective, that's much better, because I feel much better. I can choose what level of light I want. However, of course, it throws shadow.
Yeah.
And so then I'm fighting with that. If I'm in my own way now. Okay, where else can I put it? So I put it behind my laptop, and then it's just shining at me, and I can't be doing that. So I struggle with that. So actually, I do need something that's higher up.
Yeah.
But it's knowing what to get and how to get it, isn't it? Because it can be, and this is where I can hear people saying, yeah, but getting a specialist in, that's really expensive. But by the time that I've gone through the amount of things that I will have gone through to test out what I want, how I need it, where to go, does that not equal the same?
Even seeing that diagram, a lot of people, it means that they can make the decision and they don't spend loads of money buying all the different bulbs. Or it can be a very expensive mistake if you're buying things with integrated LEDs in, because it's not like the old days. If you get that color temperature wrong, unless you've got some of the ones where you can pick different color temperatures, if it's wrong, it's wrong. You take the lights out and you throw them away and start again. So that's wastage. It's wasting money. It's wasting resources, and you've got to get an electrician out twice.
Yeah.
And just showing that to people. If I'm actually visiting clients face to face, I have 2,700 and 3,000K, because they are the main ones on the market, samples. And I've got a splitter where we put one of each in, turn it on, and I can point one in one direction and one in another. And even them seeing the difference the two lights create in their room is a benefit.
And for you, that's always been about
that, or I want that.
Yeah, it's for you, that's always been about how that looks. Yeah. But actually, hopefully now, after talking to Sarah and I, you're going to go away and say, and how do you feel?
Yeah, and I have actually realised that over time that it does. I do talk about the feels as well as the look these days. And I wouldn't have done a few years ago.
And that carries over. I had no idea that you worked with garden lighting as well. Yeah. And that is always a question that I used to ask when I was doing a garden design or working with a client when I was gardening, is what do you want to feel like when you're in your garden? Because some people want to experience it as an extension of their home. And some people just use it to put the compost out or to, you know, let the dog out, you know, but they don't want brambles taking over. And so everybody's feeling for what a garden is very different.
Yeah.
And lighting, for me personally, I've got fairy lights strung up all over. And it's taken me ages to try and get the right kind of lights, because solar, which kind of feels like a good option for a period of time. And I found some that I can recharge.
Yes.
So they don't just charge on the solar, but I can actually plug them in with a USB cable as well. They've been pretty good. And they have the dual lighting. I can have cold or warm lights.
Yeah.
So they've been good, but also different festoon lights and things as well. So I'd like to hear more from you about that, Sam, because I think it's, you know.
Funnily enough, you've just said that. I have a string of lights. My garden's on 2 levels. And I have a string of lights that is on the little fancy bit before we drop down.
Yeah.
And I love in the evenings to just go and stand at my back door, it doesn't matter what the weather is, and stare at the lights.
Yeah.
Because it gives me the feels. It gives me the feels.
Yeah. I mean, outdoor lighting can do so many things. I mean, there's the safety aspect. So for a lot of people, they just want to be able to get to the bins, as you say, or, you know, there's the extension to the home. So many people want their outside space to be a living space. So then you've got to get that right. But there's also the security side. So much of what we've realised over the years is about the feels with lighting is that lizard brain. It's, you know, it's primeval stuff. So hundreds of thousands of years ago, fire meant that you could see your territory a bit more, and it made you feel safer. And I've had plenty, mainly female clients over the years, that really, really wanted to get the outside lighting right because their partners or their husbands were working away a lot. And from a security point of view, they said, if I hear anything or if something just feels off, to be able to see the extent of my territory by flicking a switch or 2 switches or whatever is really, really important for us. And so inbuilt into our subconscious that a lot of people don't realise. Sometimes that's why outside lighting makes them comfortable. And I've found that as fashions have changed over the years and how people want to live, these huge sliding or folding doors at the back of their houses, they didn't realise became black mirrors and look like a massive off flat screen TV. And there are people that are totally creeped out by them.
Yeah, that would be me.
Just by adding in garden lighting,
you've got a distance
perspective. It takes the black mirror away. You see through it and you feel safe because you can see what's going on. You haven't got this big black barrier that you don't know whether there's somebody just standing the other side of the patio.
And it's interesting you say that about safety, though, Sam, because of the fact that I finally I asked for one of my birthday presents, can I have an outside light by my front door with a sensor on it? And I wanted the sensor put so that as I put my car on the drive, it goes off so that it's not going off as I walk into the light.
Yes.
So that means that it goes quite a way out because my front door is down the side, so it goes quite a way out. And my husband fought me for ages. Why do we need that? What's the point in that? The door's just there. You can see enough to get to the door because of the street lights. No, all those sorts of things. But actually, he didn't feel unsafe, whereas I'm getting out of the car and feeling.
Yeah, as women,
I hadn't realised that.
We feel less safe. But yeah, I do a lot of garden lighting purely from a security point of view, and it is so hardwired into us. And there's so much amazing research going on these days into how light affects us consciously and subconsciously, and particularly with LEDs. They're not, for a lot of people, as healthy as the old options that you can't buy anymore, because LEDs by nature emit a very, very strong blue light, and the only way we get these colors on them is other color temperatures, is with little covers, and mainly that cover is phosphor, which is yellow tone. So it's a mineral and it's a yellow tone. And some of those phosphor filters are better than others.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, LED lighting, because it is so technical, I quite often liken it to cars. You know, generally, the more you spend on a car, the more stuff you get with it. So when you buy a car, you expect it to get to you from A to B.
Yeah.
But if you bought a Dacia, which they're always advertising on the telly as being the cheapest SUV on the market, that's going to get you from A to B. If you had something like an Audi Q7, it's going to get you from A to B, but it's probably going to be quieter, a smoother ride, etc. And then if you get the Bentley SUV, it's probably going to be awesome. But they're all doing the same job, but they're doing it in vastly different ways. And unfortunately, with LEDs, generally, unless you've found a unicorn product, the more you spend, the better quality you will get. And the quality of light you get out of it will affect the way you feel and the way you look, because the blue light, it's possible that you like your quite cool color temperature in the kitchen because it makes you feel lively and you're cooking and it keeps you awake and you can see what you're doing, but also because it's closer to natural daylight, which in the northern hemisphere where we are is nominally 6,500 K. So when you buy a daylight craft bulb, it will have normally 6,500 K on. If you've picked 4,000, that's getting more towards that. So it feels more like daylight, and things were designed to look good in daylight because we lived by daylight for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. And then we found fire, and that helped us at night. If you think about the color temperature of fire, fire is very orange. Those cooler color temperatures make you feel more alive and more zingy, and it's more daylighty looking. There's lots of extra levels of technical that I'm not going to go into here, but generally bluer is more daylight, orange is more evening light. That's possibly why you feel better about cooking by it, because things look more natural. When you were talking about reading earlier, Sarah, one of the things that I have on my phone is I have an orange filter that goes on at dusk. I
have that on my computer just anytime, because the blue light of a computer, it just really helps me with my dyslexia.
Yeah.
Because I can read things. They're not kind of, I don't have dyslexia in a way where the words jump off the page, but they can sometimes, particularly if the text is really small. So like Penguin books, the old classics, where the text's really tiny, they're almost a no for me. I have to have a really focused brain to be able to read that kind of text. But I need that kind of orange warm glow on a screen.
Yeah, you're going to find it easier to get to sleep. And this is why so many kids that are scrolling and haven't got the filter on can't sleep. Because if you think about daylight, I mean, I'm looking out my window at the moment. It's a bit cloudy. I have got some blue sky. So the sky is blue. And you wake up in the morning, unless you're up at dawn when it can be quite orangey or pinky or purpley or some of the other colours. Generally, when we're out during the day and you look out and you can see the sky and it's not fully cloudy, it's blue. But as we get towards evening, the tones go more orangey, pinky, yellowy, and warmer tones. And though that's actually controlling the hormone melatonin in our body. So the blue light says, I should be awake because it's daytime. The orange light says, right, we're ready to wind down, we need to go to sleep, to recharge. And that's why some people find it really, really hard to relax in their homes, because they've picked a very cool, toned colour temperature, and it's their bodies are being told it's daylight, it's daylight, it's daylight. So if you can either get the types of bulbs where the colour temperature changes, or you can mix in colour temperatures, then you can help yourself go to sleep by having those more orange tones in the evening. And the unfortunate thing about the early LEDs was the very early ones didn't dim. The next lot dimmed, but only got dimmer. The colour temperature didn't change. When you dimmed down the old bulbs, the incandescent filament bulbs and the halogen ones, they went more orange, didn't they? For years, we went without having that dimming available unless you spent an absolute fortune. I mean, I'm talking 15 years ago of a ceiling spotlight that did the colour temperature changes that was 350, 400 pounds a light. So a lot of people, their body clock has been messed around with by LEDs for years, and it's only the research where we're realizing that we're better off, if we can, of either having different colors on different layers or having what they call color tunable lighting, that you can actually help yourself feel a lot better, feel more relaxed, get yourself ready for bed, or if you need to, feel really alert. So this originally came from, this lighting was only available in the main for commercial, because call centres where people were doing 3 8-hour shifts, if you were doing 12 till 8 and you were doing it with you know, normal fluorescent light, people didn't function so well because they were used to a bit of colour temperature change over the, you know, if they were working in the day. A lot of the call centres have these colour temperature changes through the shift. And it was also then brought into hospitals and care homes that are, you know, really into looking after their people and their residents and their patients. But it was a long while till it actually became available for our homes.
Isn't it amazing how, and I am sorry, ladies, but we are going to have to wrap this up because we could go on forever. But isn't it amazing how actually light is such a big part of your self-care? You know, because if you're really struggling, and I know that one of the things for me that has changed my sleep is having a light, and it is an orange light. It is an orange light that basically goes down as if the sun's going down, and then I set an alarm and it starts to wake me up with light. And I feel so much better because I go to sleep and I come out of sleep with the sun going down and the sun coming up effectively.
That's naturally how it would have happened until we've got timepieces, which are only a few hundred years ago. And even, you know, a sundial was no good in the middle of the night to see what time it was. You woke up
when the light came,
because the melatonin changed, because you were responding to the light levels in your environment. And I think we lost that for a long while. And now people are tuning back into it more, and they're helping their circadian rhythms by getting the right kind of light.
So I'd like to say to everybody listening to this one, you know, it is a little bit different to what I normally do, but this still does come down to your self-care. It's understanding how light, which is so important to all of us, affects us all differently. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on and giving the other side of, you know, orange light, blue light. Always useful, because otherwise you're just getting it from my perspective. And Sam, your knowledge is immense. And what we'll do is we'll get how to contact both of you, and we'll put them down in the show notes. So if anybody wants to make contact with either Sarah or Sam, and I think, Sam, you have a call, don't you, where you can chat to people about what it is they want.
Yeah.
You know, go and follow Sam on her social media, because I'm sure she puts out tips and tricks on there. Yeah, I mean, I've gone away. I've got a list of things written down here. So thank you very much, both of you. It's been really good to spend time with you.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Jenny. Thanks.
It's been so helpful for me to hear from it from another point of view.
Brilliant.
Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.